Okay, a little plot for the day here. Slept late this morning, took Ma up to the dermatologist today. She had some spots on her arms. Branded, burned, frozen, whatever it is they do to them. Turn them into blisters instead of spots. And we went to Costco and started to localize the inflation there. And then we stopped at a little Chinese restaurant that we like there in Burleson, Texas. And I tried to show some discipline because, of course, here lately I've been having trouble with what they call my dry weight. That's the weight they weigh me at down at the dialysis clinic. And about 6 pounds heavy. And they do have a method. Just stick a needle in you. And 4 hours later, you're 6 pounds lighter. And it is no fun. So I've been trying to diet it off. I told them, if you work with me, I'll bring it down myself, and I have been. But I think I might have fell off the wagon today. But one of the things that happened this morning, you folks here in the Big Star and up in the Empire State, and the ones that see me, know that I do go on about Governor Perry. I mean, I don't like him. Never have liked him. First off, he's a Republican, and then he's a unintelligent. I don't want to say stupid. He's not a stupid man, but he's certainly not qualified to be president, and he's certainly not qualified to be governor. But anyway, today I get up and I get my local paper, and what does it say? It says, Perry losing support in Texas. Isn't that marvelous? Isn't that marvelous? In fact, 53% of the good folks down here in the Big Star have been, they had a poll, and 53% of them said, we don't want him anymore. He should not run. All-time low or something for him, which is just great. I am sure in hopes that he cannot salvage his political career between now and the next election. I'm going to give you a little background as to why aside from the fact that he's a Republican, and I'll give you a little background. There were three things that have happened during his tenure as governor, and one of them was the Texas corridor. He tried to develop a thing called the Texas corridor, and what this was going to be was an enormous combination superhighway toll road, railroad right-of-way. The thing was going to be like a quarter to a half mile wide, the right-of-way from down on the Mexican border, I guess down around Brownville, Mexican border, up to the Oklahoma state line. Now, needless to say, in order to create a monolith like this, they were going to eminent domain a lot of people out of their land. There was a lot of people upset about it. And one of the things that kind of came to light, we have a big construction company down here. It's called Zachary. And there was a Spanish company that got the contract for this Texas corridor. Turned out that there was a connection between this Spanish company and Zachary. So we think there was a little, under the table stuff going on there. Anyway, it was so unpopular that they've pretty well shelved it, but it's still out there. Every now and then it rears its head, and they say, they're going to come up through the state with this mile-wide ditch and ruin a lot of people's lives. Another one that happened during his titular, or during his governorship, there was an aquifer control prospect that was put out. And Texas got water problems. We get our water two ways. One from surface water, the rivers, we dam rivers and we create reservoirs. And then there are big aquifers that flow into the state actually come out of the Rocky Mountains. Now up in the high plains around Lubbock and Amarillo and Abilene and places like that, most of the people in those places get their water out of wells from these aquifers. Well, somebody came up with the bright idea that they ought to put meters on these wells. Now, these guys have gone out and spent $5,000-$10,000, drilling a good well. And a fellow named T. Boone Pickens, I'm sure you've probably heard of him, he's fairly famous, was the one that was going to ramrod this thing, and T. Boone was going to go out, or his people were going to go out, and they were going to put meters on all these wells, and then, of course, the farmers and ranchers would have to pay for the water that they thought they were getting for free. Needless to say, this didn't go over very well. There was some talk that the guys that were going to come out the meters on, they'd never see them again. Maybe they'd be down the bottom of the wells. So that kind of went away. Another one was redistricting. We had a fellow down here named Tom DeLay. I'm sure you've heard of him. He pushed through a redistricting plan. Texas has historically always been a Democratic state. Until in the 90s, Tom DeLay and some guys ran a redistricting plan, and they redrew the boundaries on these districts to where that the Republicans had turned it to their state. Well, one of the other things old Tom accomplished was he got convicted of a felony for gangsterism. I'm not sure whether he's in prison yet, but if any of you folks watch Dancing with Stars, after he was convicted, he was dancing with the stars on that thing. But I think he's either gone away or he's about to go away for a long time. And he was the guy that turned Texas into a Republican state. And then one last thing that really is, this is Perry. Back in 2007, Perry issued an executive order to have all the young ladies of puberty, I guess, inoculated with this vaccine for cervical cancer. Good idea, really. Except that he didn't run it through the legislature, he just did it with an executive order. Well, it turned out that the guy that looked over his shoulder and said, "Hey, I think we ought to do this," was his former chief of staff, who was a lobbyist for Merck, who was making the vaccine, who was making fairly substantial contributions to Perry's re-election campaign. Boy, there was a brouhaha about that. I mean, it didn't take him a couple of days to back off of that one. But these are some of the chicanery that our man Perry has been involved in down here, and one of the reasons I am so dead against him. And I am thrilled with that headline I showed you. It just couldn't come too soon. Like I said, if there was a way in our state constitution to impeach him, I'd say, get him out now. But he's looking like this is going to be his last term, no matter what. Although they were talking in an article about him running again in 2016 for president, I can't imagine. But my man Perry, it appears, is on his last legs, and it's wonderful. And other than that, not much going on around here. The motor for my lawnmower came in. I don't know if I mentioned that. My Husky mower, we cranked it up one day here about a month ago, and the rod came smack through the side of the block. So I sent off and got another motor, exactly the same as the one that's on there. And I got to find somebody to put it on. I'm incapable of doing it myself, but it was $500 for the motor, but the mower was about $2,500. So it should be a good deal. I think that's it. Long live the Democrats, and hopefully on this next election we'll get a Democratic governor. By the by, I enjoyed the President's State of the Union the other night. He kind of got in their face. I mean, he needs to go back to his roots. I mean, he's a Democrat, and he needs to act like one. And in that speech, he did. So I guess we'll see. Anyway, I'm still stuck with him. Have a fine one.